Okay, so welcome, guys. This is Suitcase Divas podcast, episode 20. My name is Denise Diabaldi with Redbirds Travel.
And I'm Cheryl Garcia with ABCD Adventures.
Yeah, so let's go there. So, as you may recall, this is the MSC Cruise Part 2. We did tell you a little bit about what we were doing on the first couple days. And so now we are approaching day 3, correct, show?
Yes, we're
All
getting
right,
into
so
it.
So on this particular day, we were at sea for 2 days. Then we're coming into Port Canaveral. We were there. We got there in the morning, and we went to the breakfast buffet. Nothing special here, just the buffet that they
But
have,
no
the
red
same
flags
food.
yet. We
No red
hadn't,
flags,
we
just the
hadn't,
same food, just the same
yeah.
food. Not really any variation, which is kind of a bummer. Um, but no worries. So then we had training at 9 o'clock. Because our BDM was on the ship, we did get some training about the history of MSC, different things we might want to pitch to our customers, all that good stuff. It was for a couple hours. Then we decided to record a podcast because we did have Wi-Fi, although you had much better Wi-Fi than I did. But so we recorded a podcast and we did some work at that point. Um, then we had lunch at Waves, which is a miracle because how long is the window, Cheryl, for
one
Waves lunch?
hour for their only
So
sit down restaurant at lunch. You have a 1 hour window to eat
and
for the whole
5,000
ship.
people. Yeah,
Yes,
over 5,000 people. If you want to go to lunch, you all just bust your ass in there within the hour and hope for the best. So
right.
so we did, but we were over the buffet. So we're like, shit, if we have to friggin', you know, squeeze in that time frame, we will do so because the buffet, I was just not feeling the
And this
buffet.
was our first day at the restaurant where we sat down to eat, I
For
believe.
lunch, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. In general, maybe. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Perhaps you're right. Um, and and it was better than the buffet. I'll give it that. Do you remember what we had, Cheryl? I think did I get the baby Caesar salad? It was microscopic.
I don't
It was,
remember if it was that day. Well, I actually think you did get the Caesar salad because you got
I
it
think I did too.
just about every
That's all I
time
ate on the cruise, essentially was salad. I
and
try to veer,
charcuterie
I try
boards.
to stray out, yep, and cheese and meat. Um, yeah. So, but I will say I don't eat a lot, and the portion sizes on this salad, like it was maybe a cup of salad, like literally beep,
It
a
was
cup in
almost
a bowl.
smaller than a side salad you would get at a restaurant. And this was supposed
Definitely,
to be your
absolutely.
main thing in the at lunch. But I will say lunch came with an appetizer, the main dish, and then a dessert, I believe.
And I
And
didn't, I think I had a good soup that day. I do remember that. That was a good lunch because I had a good soup and then I had my microscopic salad. So we're like, damn, this Waves restaurant's got it going on. But
yeah,
it really was mediocre food, but we just,
it was
we
better than
didn't
the
have much to
buffet.
go on.
Yes. And it was
For
nice to
sure.
sit down and not have to battle the lines at the buffet.
Right. No ribbing for some friggin' scrambled eggs. It
Yeah.
was better for sure. So then also because we asked our BDM and she was able to accommodate a tour for the yacht club, which for the yacht club, that is kind of the high rollers. That's kind of like your suites,
Yeah, but we did that the
your
next day.
oh, we did do that? Okay, because that is
Yeah.
on this day. So let me just squeak
Yeah.
on by
So
here.
we did that the next day. And it's
We
funny.
were
And
kind
this,
of confused as to what we did. Is like we went through the Bermuda Triangle and everything was fucked up. We couldn't
and
remember what we did on what day. I will attribute that to the drink package we got. That was a pretty good drink package for
well,
me.
not just that, because we spent so much time on the ship, everything blurred together. And even right before we hit record, we were still going over this bullet point notes that we were going to discuss, changing it. And so it was
It really
just,
was wild.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
So
we in 7 and 8 days we got off the ship for approximately 4 hours
five
total.
about 5 hours, I
Yeah,
think.
I would say 4 or 5. Yeah.
Yeah. But what was funny is
So
right when you started to talk about the yacht club, I was going to signal you, no, but I forgot we're putting this on YouTube now, so we can't do those signals anymore.
oh
So I was
well,
like,
no worries. Listen, we'll
Yeah.
get to the yacht club tour tomorrow. No
Yes.
worries. That's coming along in just a hot minute. So,
So let's just talk about some of the activities they offer. Because this day,
yes, let's do that.
in Port Canaveral, which by the way, I thought was interesting as a port anyway, to go from New York to Port Canaveral when we could have just gone to Port Canaveral and there's a lot of crew. It was just very odd to me that that was a port.
Yeah, it
And
kind of sucked to have to fly up to New York. Although I loved going up to New York. I
I did
loved
too.
the being
It
in,
was just,
and I loved seeing Janine. It ended up, it's a little pricey though to
but
just fly
we
up
did
there to,
have people that lived in Florida that moved or that flew to New York
yeah,
just to stop in Port Canaveral. But they knew that ahead of time. So several people were planning to go to Disney. Now, we didn't get into Port Canaveral until about 1 p.m.
1 p.m. is when they let us off. We got
Right.
there a little earlier, but you could not disembark until after 1 p.m.
Right. So we had decided not to even
We're
attempt
just going to
to,
work. We've been
well,
to Port Canaveral. We've been to Florida many times. We
right.
just decided
Well,
to work.
and we had to, everybody had to be back on board by 9. So we were not going to try to attempt Disney of any sort between 1 and 9 p.m. because
We
the
didn't want to be
traffic
those
and
people running back to the ship.
right, which
Although
we did go look.
in hindsight,
Yeah, it
that may
probably
have been
would
the
have
best
been
bet.
bad because it was a decent day. But the people that didn't seem to have a good time. So what we checked out were some of the activities they had on board. And if you've heard us, we've said in the previous episode, their activities are kind of lackluster compared to other cruise
Very,
ships.
very limited, and
They are. They are
short.
very short.
Hmm.
So, but they did sort of had have a variety. They had like pickleball, which I'm so wanting to learn how to play pickleball. That's on my bucket list. Shannon was going to be my partner and my friend
Really?
Shannon, but as we know, she can't do that right now. But yeah, that
Oh,
pickleball is on
her
my
knee.
list to learn how to do. They also had arts and crafts, which I've seen this on other cruise lines. What was different about this one was it was only for 18 and up. So they didn't have arts and crafts for kids
Well,
for the most part.
they do have the kids club, so hopefully they got to do some arts and
Yeah,
crafts
I just
in
thought it
there.
was interesting that all their arts and craft sessions, they so if you had brought, which when we were talking about their activities and trying to remember, we realized we did not see a lot of kids running around the ship. And when I say running, I don't mean that like they were running wild like you would not that they normally run wild on cruises, but you didn't see a lot of kids. They were
There,
in the kids club.
yeah, it really was not a lot of kids out and about being kids.
So they obviously have lots of um physical things. They had aerobics, they had a foosball tournament, they had a
I did
soccer
like the
tournament
I will say I participated in the morning stretch and
on the days it was
meditation
nice. Yeah, because
on
that
the
was
days that I
outside.
could tolerate it, that is warm enough that, yeah, to be outside on the pool deck,
What was
which was like
kind
one
of
or two.
disappointing about some of the activities were their length. Like some of the things we did, they were 45 minutes. So it was just when you are trying to schedule something out and trying to now trivia, I get trivia is not going to last an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever. But
Yeah.
some of the activities you kind of wanted to have time to hang around. So their activity windows were small. Their variety tended to be
Far
athletic, I would
me.
think, athletic and fitness.
They were doing some soccer in that pickleball court too.
Yes, they did
I
soccer,
did
they
see
did
them playing soccer in
basketball.
there.
These are the
Yep.
ones that were organized. Now, they did have times where you could sign up on these courts and have free time or get a group together. So if you traveled with a group or you met some people on the cruise and you wanted to play pickleball or
You're
basketball, they had
definitely
free time
probably
to
going to
do
want
that.
more than 45 minutes on that arts and crafts session, though.
The
Like,
arts
what
and
can you make
crafts
in
was like an
45 minutes?
hour, hour and a half
Okay.
ish. So some of them, but
Okay.
the majority of them were not. And as we get into the late night things, those are even shorter, which I thought was interesting. But some of the other things that they had on board, they had a veterans meetup, which I thought was really
Very
interesting.
cool.
I don't know if it
Awesome.
was every day, but I know they had it on this day in Port Canaveral. They
I
also
like
have,
that.
if you don't know what Friends of Bill W is, most cruise lines have this meetup. There's no host. It's labeled as Friends of Bill W on the activity sheet. This is kind of to replace your Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. So if you need support while you're on the ship, or you just need to be around like-minded people, you want to kind of get away from the other atmosphere. I've not been there, so I can't explain
It
how it
still
was,
sounds, that's good.
but
That's
I do want
awesome that they
people to
have
know
that.
that that's there. So that I
Yeah.
love that they do that. They also have a meetup for solo travelers. Solo traveling on cruises is becoming very popular, and I
Yep.
like that they're kind of getting people together. So you can, if you want to like experiment with a solo cruise, you know that there are other people there. You'll get to meet up with them. They had Hanukkah service. They all because we were going during Hanukkah, and they had other religious service as well. But I thought that was really nice that they included things like that of what was going on. And then they had LGBTQIA plus meetup every day as well, which I
That's
think is
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, in this day and age, you should cover everybody. So that is definitely very nice that they have that. And actually, two of our friends we met on the cruise, they said that they were like the only ones that went there, but that they had chips and guac. They served that at the meeting, and so they're like, hey, free appetizers, you know.
Right, yeah.
Um,
So I
so
think that
that was
was
for
really good that they had those type of activity. Those are just an example of what they had. This was particularly that day. The evening, every night we found out that every night there was some sort of theme, even though
we
during our
just didn't
research,
know. We didn't
yeah,
know what.
during our research, there were three that we knew. Well, honestly, I can't say we knew for sure, but three that kept coming up, which was the gala night, the white night, and we weren't even sure what the other one was. It was,
Italian night. We heard Italian night.
yeah. So this night, this is what's also confusing because,
We thought it was white night,
well, no,
right?
not this night. This night
Oh, this
was,
is okay. So
th-
what did we wear that night?
this was, we did not go down to the party, which the party did not
Oh,
even last that long, the themed
okay.
party. But this was
Okay.
considered the space party, Caribbean night slash sunshine night, which, so the way I found this out, I think I went and this is when we went and asked the guest services what the schedule was for the rest of the week. But if you look on, oh, I put it right here. If you look on their itinerary for the night, usually their like 10:30 party was the theme party, um, which was space
I'm still
party.
trying to figure out what we wore. My lips are so chapped, FYI. I need to get a lip scrub or something like that. I'm just saying, remind me later, okay? Because
Okay.
it's driving me nuts. And then I'm just here licking my lips, then we're putting this on YouTube. I'm
That's
gonna look like a
okay.
shit show. Alrighty then, let's
So we
proceed.
had a hard time figuring out. I don't even remember what we did wear because we did try to match and dress up
We
with what was going
tried,
on with the theme
yeah,
that night.
because we just packed as much shit as we could fit into our suitcases, and we're like, we got this covered. And I packed like 8 bathing suits, and you know how that turned out.
But
Wah,
I
wah,
will say
wah.
when you went down to the party, which usually started around 10:30, they had
There's
a
a lot of
space.
people there.
There was, and they had a space show going on because remember the crew was
We actually
dressed
have
up.
a video of that. We should post that.
We
We
do.
I did get a video. Yep, I got a video of them dancing.
But
So the cast members all dressed in silver, and they were
and they had light
dancing.
up. They had lights on their costumes and the overhead display that they had
The
going on.
ceiling on the display ceiling, that thing was fucking killing it. I thought
And
the
yeah,
graphics they put up there, that was probably the best part of the nightlife there was
well
this
again,
the ceiling and all the LED lights, they would all change all the time.
I mean again, the ship is beautiful. We
It
cannot
is
There's
gorgeous.
no fault
There's no, yep,
in the ship itself. It was
gorgeous.
beautiful, it was
Gorgeous.
clean.
Hmm.
So that after we went to, I don't even remember. I don't think we went down to that party because I know we
I
caught
know
it.
we did because I have a video of it.
Well, they had
I don't think we danced and frolicked down there that
well, they
night.
had several different. They had like a 8 or 8:30 show with the crew that did the dancing. Then they did it again at 10:30. I think we saw the early one. Then we marched ourselves back up to 18 to the cigar lounge.
That was our
Um,
favorite place to be,
yep,
honestly.
and that's kind of where we spent the rest of the night, as hanging out up there on deck 18 in the cigar lounge.
And we
And
can confirm this because we had to go back on our cell phones and check out the
we
dates
did.
and the times. Look, because we just, the days
It
kind of blurred
blurred
together.
together.
It
So
did.
then the next day we were porting into Nassau. So
And I was so like, woohoo, this is going to be awesome. It's going to be so nice and beautiful. And guess what? It was raining and cold. It didn't start out raining, but it was chilly. And then everybody got off immediately, right? Because that one was a long day. Nassau
no, that
was
was not.
it,
We
it
didn't
was a
get into
short day.
Nassau until
Okay,
1 because we had our yacht club tour at 2. So we couldn't get
you're
off at
right.
1 and we didn't have any excursions because both of us had been to Nassau before. So our initial plan was just to get off and walk around the port and just kind of see the local life
And we
and
were
stuff like
planning
that.
to do our big excursion was going to be the
Yeah, which comes
sunken
up
ship
next.
snorkel was going to be Ocean Key.
Yeah, so we that morning we battled the buffet. Still at this point, we're now into Tuesday of our 8-day cruise, and we are
So
okay.
that's day four. Day four.
Yeah, we're on day 4. So we're at the we're like, okay, let's get up, go to the buffet. We didn't have training that morning. We just had the tour coming up at 2. So we kind of were able to take our time. But this is when we did not go to lunch because we kind of had the tour and we were getting dressed. And even though it was cold and windy and predicting rain at the time, it wasn't raining. We totally dressed up in summery, Caribbean clothes. Cause I remember we had like these were outfits we had planned. We're gonna go out and just it's gonna be nice and warm. And we both had those beach flowy pants on and we
Yes.
looked super
And it
cute.
was windy as fuck. It was
Yes.
so windy
So
and it was so cold.
this is when we ended up we went to the yacht club tour. So I'm going to let you explain the yacht club.
Okay, well, so the yacht club is kind of like the bougie class people on the ship, and they pay for a premium to be in this club. So they have like their own pools, they have their own bars, they have their own buffet area, deck lounges, all that good stuff. So we did go on the tour up there. Well, like, okay, you might call it a tour.
I was going to say, well, first
We
explain how
literally,
hard it was just for us to get in as we were being escorted. It was like
right.
trying to
So
get into the White House.
we had people, yes, and there was a group of maybe what, 8 of us,
Yeah.
10 of us. So we weren't a large group, but they're like, and you have to wait until everybody gets off the ship in Nassau. And because we can't compromise their privacy and we can't, we don't want them to just think just anybody can get up there to see what's going on.
Because it's
And
like
so
that's part of the perks of being in the yacht club is it's very secluded. They described it as a ship within a ship. You basically didn't have this is how it was presented to us. You did not have to leave anything in the yacht club to enjoy all the amenities of the ship, other than possibly going to like the spa. We'll
they,
tell you the people we met from the yacht club later, but because we did a couple days later. But it was
yeah. So
very
it's exclusive. It was very
correct.
exclusive. And that's kind of what they want you to, you know, book your clients as. You know what I mean? They're saying it's a whole different experience than the regular people on the
Which your
cruise.
drinks, your Wi-Fi, all of that's included at that
Included.
level. So even though
Yes.
you're paying a little bit more, your rooms are slightly different. You have a private elevator, private staircase. It's it's a ship within a ship. So um it was
And I did get a
beautiful.
peek of their food buffet, and it was for sure way
Well,
nicer
even
than
their
ours.
snacks when we came in, they had just like all those snacks right when you first walk in, and it was just so much
Nobody was
fancier.
pushing each other.
You're
Nobody was
also
stealing bananas.
escorted. One of the other perks is you're escorted from place to place. So when you on
I
embarkation day,
kind
they
of
have their
I
own
kind of don't
area.
think I would go back. I don't think I'd go back, period, maybe. But if I did, I'd want to go on the yacht club.
I absolutely
I want
agree.
to
I
be a
think
yacht club
yes.
guest. They but we didn't get when I call this a tour loosely, and by that I mean we went up, we saw their pool and how bougie they have it, and then but we didn't get to see a room. We didn't get to go into any of the restaurants.
Or their
All we
lounge
did was,
areas. Yeah.
or any of it really. We went up to where their bougie ass pool and loungy chairs are with their nicer buffet, and then that was our tour of the yacht club. So I really did not feel like
That
that's a
was a
real
tour.
tour.
I agree.
Yeah. I
But
mean, I
it was
feel a
part
little
of our
bit
training
special.
and
Yeah.
we could check it off.
We
The
did it.
parts we
Yeah,
did see were nice.
they were. Absolutely.
So, after that, we did end up trying to check out they had a beer because Denise was like, okay, I'm over the wine. I don't want to drink wine all day. Let's go see if anywhere has beer.
Well,
Explain
mimosas.
about the beer.
I did mimosas. I did the mimosas in the morning, like
Right.
usually at one or two. But then yeah, I wanted to have something they did, and like you said, this all comes back to the lack of communication because they never offered like the fun fruity drinks. Normally when you go to the different bars, they're like, "Ooh, this is this," or "We have this," or they have some kind of display that makes it all look fancy and yummy and makes you want
Hmm.
to try stuff. They didn't have any of that. So then I said, "You know what? This is why because it was it was I wanted to check out the beer place because I thought maybe, they had some football on there on Sunday. That I thought was cool. They did have NFL. Um and so but they did not have any IPAs on draft at all. So that was because I'm not a beer drinker per se, but I found a little niche that I will tolerate for beer, and that is a hazy IPA. So they did not have anything that I would drink in the beer pub. And that was not included in our package.
The drinks
The
were, but the
drinks
food
were,
was not.
but the
Yeah.
food, it was considered a specialty restaurant, a specialty beer pub restaurant,
Yep. Which had beer
which
pub food. It had pub food, which we
I
were
know,
dying for. We even talked about it multiple times, going back to
but
just,
at, but at
yeah,
that point, we're just like, okay, there's nowhere to eat around here. Like, how can this beer pub be considered a specialty restaurant? There's
right.
one restaurant that you can eat lunch at. So I thought, let's just go to the beer pub and maybe get we'll get something up there. But I think because of our time restraints or what was going on that day, we ended up not getting, I don't think we ate lunch
We did
there. I
not
know
because
we didn't eat lunch
we didn't
there.
eat lunch
We
that
ordered
day at
a
all.
beer. I got a beer and it was not what I liked. So then we were moving on from the beer pub.
And then while everybody was off ship for Nassau that day, oh, no, then we did decide to try to get off. And we actually stood in line to disembark and get off in Nassau. We went through, scanned our card, got off, got onto the dock, and the
The
overhang, it was
skies opened up. It
pouring.
was like a sign from God. Like,
So we took
get
our picture right there and turned
yeah.
around, got right back in line and got right
And
back on.
that was the 30 seconds that we got off the ship. That was like one of our biggest, like,
Times,
okay,
yeah.
we're in the islands. We went to Nassau.
Yeah. So when we got back on, they were doing the cruise safety drill. This lasted for quite a while. It was very loud.
Yes, it was
Not that
bad.
we're faulting I mean, we absolutely
No, I know
want
you
them
got
to
to
do
do
a
a
safety
drill, and
drill.
we should have been able to get off, but the weather did not allow us to. So the whole drill was very, very, very
Loud
long and
and loud.
loud. And
And
I
when
tried to go back to my room and they were blocking off us. They're like, you can't go down there. And I was like, this is where my room is. I can't go down here. It was weird.
because they were practicing the evacuations, like this is everybody, all
If
the
there
crew
was
had to
a,
get into their
mhm.
spots where they would, start when for evacuating or whatever they would be directing. So our hallway happened to be one that they wouldn't be sending people to. Um, and then when it was over and we went back to our room for one thing or another, we ran into our sweet room attendant, Leslie, and she informed us that, oh, we probably shouldn't rat her out, like, because I don't want her to get in any trouble, but this drill
No,
went,
because we always asked, how are you doing? How are she? Like, we had a very friendly,
yes,
communicative relationship with our room attendant. She was amazing. That being said, we said to her, because everything was like so chaotic and we're just like trying to get the vibe of this ship. And we're like, is this always the way it is? What's going on? You have to have this safety drill. And she looked exhausted.
Mhm.
And we're just like, are you okay? Like, and she
Or
was
do you
like,
get a
yeah,
break, or when's your
yeah,
next
we
time
said, do you
off?
get a break? And she said, no, we had to work through our lunch and then we I guess maybe they get dinner. I don't want to make it seem like they're just not getting fed at
Well,
all. But
she said that they had to work through their break because normally I guess they do their morning cleaning, their morning prep, and then they come back and they turn down our rooms and everything. So the drill was in between that time where she would normally be resting or
yeah,
just having her off time.
and no lunch. They didn't even eat.
Yeah.
And
So that was
Cheryl and I were kind of pissed about that.
yeah.
Um, but I'm sure this happens. This isn't the only exclusively to MSC. If this probably happens, but we did not like to hear that while, the crew was not the crew had to work overtime and then they had to skip meals. I mean, we were
Right. And
skipping
their
meals
breaks,
just because the
skipping their
buffet
breaks.
was just awful.
Yeah.
But that was on us. Like we chose to not eat the shitty
Well,
food.
that leads us into our dinner. So we decided to brave the buffet again because the schedule was just weird that day. And we again, our assigned dining time was 8:45, so we were not doing that. So I don't even know what time we ended up going to the buffet. This is when things started to turn.
Getting a little hairy.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
so
because everybody had been on board a lot, there wasn't a lot of time to get off and be in the sunshine. It started taking its toll on people, and we could
yes.
see it. Like first and foremost, we could see the more people getting aggressive.
Well, and
Um,
then the lack of supply. So the drink machines at most of the buffet, it was very hard to find. So what's
Juices,
included with your drinks is water from the fountain type things, some type of juice at the meals. They have like the machines that you can go to the restaurants and you just put your cup in and it
cranberry
brings it out.
juice, apple juice, orange juice.
And then hot tea. You can make tea. Although one day they did have sweet tea. I'll touch base on that in a minute because remember I did try that. But so this was when the drink machines weren't working at most of the sections
People
of the
getting
buffet.
pissed at this point.
And it's very frustrating when your included drink, which isn't a huge variety, and you didn't know. So you got water, tea, and some type of juice. You had no idea what the juice was going to be. And sometimes it was cranberry, other time lemonade.
Watered down cranberry, I shall
It
say.
was so watered down. It was
Bad.
unbelievably
It
watered
was bad,
down.
real bad. Like we even said it, people. When we had breakfast that one morning, we sat at a big table, and you don't get to pick your seats. You're just seated with other guests, and everybody was talking about like that's not real cranberry juice,
Well, and
right?
the
It's like a
orange juice was the same.
yeah.
The orange juice was very
I
scarce.
think they added water to everything to try to
Yes.
ration it.
Well,
Is
and
my
part of the
guess.
problem was so they had a really nice setup for their buffet. I think as far as what they were supplying, they had a set for where your coffee and your drinks were. They had their cups, they had the coffee machines, then they had these little drawers that had different types of tea. The second that tea went out, it was gone like that. Like people
Well,
were,
because of
oh,
hoarding issues.
yes,
Yeah.
they were coming in, basically pulling the drawers out and dumping them in bags. So if you wanted tea, the second they restocked that tea, it was like a swarm there. Were
The
informed
passengers
of
were unruly on this ship. Like
yes.
nothing I've ever
This is when we
seen.
started to see and hear more and more of how outrageous it was. People were
Stuff
going,
started coming through our
you know
thread.
how they have the cabinets underneath at any restaurant buffet or anything like that, they have cabinets underneath where they store things. Passengers were going in there and getting out whatever they wanted.
We use the
But
term passengers loosely here.
yeah, the I will say also though the ship itself was having a hard time keeping cups stocked. I mean, you couldn't find a coffee cup most days. Your juice
True.
cups were you had or they were coming out really wet and you were like, "Ooh, has this been?" Cuz I saw people pick up the juice cup, put it into drink, taste it and be like, "Oh, this isn't good." Dump it out and stick it right back up in the cabinet. So you had we always recommend when you cruise that you bring your own portable
Mm-hmm.
reusable cup
Amen.
for
Yes,
purpose for this
sister.
reason. Now
Yes.
I'll be bringing also like a coffee cup because we absolutely needed one of those. And I started saving my coffee cups. Well, I do iced coffee, but still I started saving that. But it kind of got
It
crazy.
was a shit show. By
And then,
that buffet, things started unraveling.
yes, this
Passengers
was
became
kind of
even more
when
unruly.
the cruise started taking a downward spin. So as we wrap up the day, what is the news we heard by the end of day 4, Denise?
Oh, somebody had died on board.
Yes. This
Yes,
was
we thought maybe it was a buffet, but we don't have any facts. I'm joking about that, but we don't know how they died, but we just know that a passenger has died on board. And I'm thinking, yeah, well, it's starting to come unhinged. I can see why. Like, I don't know. Things are
right.
starting to get a little iffy here.
So that's leading up now. So we've had kind of a crappy day with the weather, the intenseness at all to just get a meal. The activities were kind of sporadic and scarce. So we're the next day we were day 5, we're supposed to be in Ocean Key, which is spelled Ocean Cay. We've been pronouncing it K the whole time until we were informed it's Ocean Key. We were supposed to be there. We had a snorkeling excursion at a
I
sunken
was
ship.
so excited. I was so
Yes.
excited.
But because the weather was so bad, we got rerouted to Miami. And our port in Miami was from like 8 or 9 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Yes.
So
So
explain what
we
we
were
had to
devastated.
do when we got to Miami. This is something I've never experienced on a cruise.
So, so, so we find out we're not going to Ocean Key. And that friggin' sucked because we were excited for that. And I want to add this. The other reason why Ocean Key was paramount is because it was owned by MSC and everything you did, the food, the drinks, everything you did was complimentary. Any food and drink, the beaches, all that were part of the cruise. Like if you had the drink package, you got the drinks on board. You get to go to the different food places on Ocean Key. So that was scrapped. Now we're pulling into Miami for a full day. So people are like, well, this sucks. So anything we do, if we leave the ship, we have to pay for everything ourselves. That is no longer included. And people were pissed about that, rightfully so. The other shitty part was not only do we have to port in Miami, they had this crazy customs form you had to fill out, and all 5,000 plus people had to disembark the ship for a head count. They had to make sure the ship was clear and then we could get back on. So people were pissed and people were uninformed. Like I said, this all rolls into there was a very big lack of understanding or communication that went on this ship. People were coming out in their friggin' swimsuits and towels out of the hot tub thinking, oh, if we just get off the ship, I can get back on. No,
So,
everybody had to clear the ship.
and the way we were informed was every day they would put on our as they made our bed for the evening, they put the next day's. I remember because we don't get the notifications for anything until 11 o'clock
Yeah,
at night.
everything's a
So
nice big
we got
surprise for
a
the next
sheet of
day.
paper that explained the changes for the next day and the information about disembarking and going through customs. Now, here's
Yep.
where because I was one of those confused people as well, because it said we had no plans to, we talked about it and we're like, we don't have time to research Miami. We can use it as
We
a
were
work
going to do more
day.
podcasting stuff. Yep.
Yeah, we could use it as a work day. We're fine. And it was raining. It was horrible weather. So we're like, we'll just explore the ship, we'll hang out and we'll work. Because this was a work trip. Well, the letter we got said if you were not doing excursions, then you had to meet at like the theater or something, and you would be escorted. My understanding was you met there. If you weren't doing excursions, they'd take you through what you're doing and bring you back on. That's not what happened. So we actually had one of our fellow
No.
agents get off. This was, you had to be there like by 9 a.m. or something. She went down at 8:30, and she didn't take anything but her key
Room key.
card,
Yep.
and I think you had to take your passport. 'Cause did you have to take your passport? I don't remember because we had to go through.
I think it's a good idea. We took our
I
passports.
think you had to take your identification, whether it was your passport, whatever you got on the ship with, you had to use it to go through customs.
Exactly.
So she just took
Exactly.
that, thinking she's going to go down and get right back on. she got off about 8:39 with
No
no
money,
money, no
nothing. Yeah,
breakfast, no big coat, like nothing because she thought she was getting back on. Fast forward just a little bit right here. We're gonna let you know we didn't get back on till what, 2 o'clock?
it was
So
about 2 or
here's where the
after.
shit show came in.
Mhm.
We
People
and this
started unraveling at this point.
Oh
People
my
were
gosh, we were
unraveling
spiraling.
at this
So
point.
we kind of piddled around, did our own thing, and we just
Because there
so
was a huge line that wasn't going anywhere, and I'm like,
yeah, well, and
"I'm
here's
not
the other
gonna stand
problem.
in line
We
to"
walked
and
down there around 10-ish and we saw the
yeah.
giant line. Well, actually, before we did
Mhm.
that, we went to the bar. They're still serving at the bar. So we grabbed our drink, went
So we're
and
like,
looked.
"Let's not go in a hurry. Let's just have a drink." Because other people were lounging. Nobody was in a hurry to get off. You would have never known it was required, which I also have a video of that.
Yeah.
You would never people were dancing. This one group was having a fantastic time. I wish I had gotten to be friends with them, but,
But the cruise messed up by not closing everything down. We sat at that bar for
there were
quite a
people
bit.
still in the massage, like, and
Yes.
they finally got pulled out of a massage. They had everything open. Like, if you're supposed to get off the ship, then close everything down, and then people will get off in a timely manner
Right.
and then get back on. But
So
that's
we
not what
got
happened.
off and we just hung out really right at we walked through customs, walked out the door, stepped foot on the Miami, you know, port, and then went right back to the entrance. We didn't go in because it was so crowded. People were just kind of milling around. We're like, and it actually wasn't cold. It was rainy, but it wasn't super cold. We were comfortable. We were outside. So we hung out there. We met some great people. Then when it was time to board, when they were finally letting oh, no, as we were standing out there, that's when we saw that poor lady come out wrapped in a towel.
Right. And I will say, people were contemplating jumping ship at this point, like
Mhm.
taking their shit off and getting off in Miami and not even heading back up to New York. And we actually contemplated that, correct,
We
Cheryl?
did. Yes,
And
we
we
did.
saw one family. We don't know if this is the family that lost somebody, but they actually had their luggage, they had everything, and they're like, "We're leaving. It doesn't matter. We're done. We're done." And so
But they
they were
charge
gonna
you
charge us,
almost
and they were gonna
$1,000
charge
per
us.
person if you break your
I don't
cruise.
even it's something about some kind of law.
Well,
What
no,
law?
it's because, it is about it's the cruise closed circuit
Because
cruise
we
thing.
didn't finish the loop. We wouldn't be finishing the whole itinerary.
Right, but
So
if you miss it, this is what I didn't understand because if you're a pier runner, they don't charge you. You just are responsible for taking care of yourself and your stuff, but we then get to go back in line to go through the embarkation process again. They start handing out numbers. Oh, I think this is when the lady yelled at the guy for taking a picture of the welcome to Miami. Was that right?
yeah,
She's like, you can't do that. It
yeah,
was
take a picture of that, and it says
everybody
"Welcome
was
to
in a bad
Miami."
mood.
Yeah,
Everybody, even which
and there
anyone
was
that works in
no staff on the ship. Okay, so me and my new friends, we were just fucking around because we had like 3 hours. People are like looking where to go to get back in, and they had the staircase closed off with the little lines where we were all standing. The four of us were standing, and so he just starts directing people up around the ramp is how you get back in, up around the ramp. And so then after he was like talking to you about something and people are like looking at us for guidance. And so then I'd be like, yeah, you just have to go up around the ramp to get back in. Like we were doing their job essentially for them.
there
People
were
didn't
no
know where to go.
signs, there was no
We were
direction.
directing people. We were
Mhm.
directing people on where to go.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was like, somebody's got to work here. So I
And then
stepped
it
it up
got
a notch.
funny because we actually were getting texts that people were getting back on the ship, from our other fellow agents. So
We
we're
had
like,
our
"Okay,
travel
guys,
agent
let's go
VIP
get
text
in."
going on. Yeah.
They started handing out numbers and they said, "Okay, when we call your number, your group," so the four of us went on, we had the same number. Like when they call your number, they're like, get in line." So we're like, "Okay, waiting for it." We have no idea what number they're on, what number they're calling.
And we never heard anybody call it
We
number
didn't. There
towards
was
the till the
somebody
very end.
walking up and down saying, "Give me your ticket, give me your ticket. You're not getting on if you don't
You
have a ticket."
cannot get back on if I do not
This
get your
was a
ticket.
tiny printed piece of paper with a number on it. I don't know because I was like, if they don't call our, I don't know what their plan was if you
I
didn't
could
have it,
have
because not
freaking pulled
everybody
something
got
out of my
one.
purse and written a number on it, and that could have been my ticket.
But
Like,
here's the
these are nothing
kicker.
special.
They didn't even go in order. So there were people who waited for their number to be called while the rest of we didn't know. We just kind of jumped in the
We
herd
followed
and
the shuffle
followed.
of yeah, we are following the shuffle of the crowd,
So by the
waiting for our
time we
number
got
to
back
be called.
on, we most people have now missed breakfast and lunch because mind you, the buff or the restaurants only open for an hour from like 12 to 1. We're way
Yes.
past that time. So the buffet, we actually did, I think, go to the buffet this day. I think. Let
It
me
was
see.
a shit
Yes,
show.
we did.
This
Oh
is
no,
when
we
people are
went.
really getting
Yeah.
no,
So
we
it
did
got
see people.
crazy.
We walked through the buffet because Miss D needed a drink.
Yes. Well, and we
I
thought,
needed to get
okay,
my drink.
well, let's go check out one of it was crazy at the buffet.
It
I
was
think this was the
crazy.
day we did not eat lunch because it was so late. It was time, and this was what
And
night was
this
this?
is why
Tropical
everybody
party
started
night.
calling this the Hunger Games cruise. At this point,
The
this is what
buffet
it was
got
lovingly
aggressive,
referred to
more
as the
aggressive,
Hunger Games cruise.
and people were just angry at this point.
Yeah.
So,
More angry than they were before, and they were already pretty fucking angry.
and the weather was getting shittier and shittier.
It
So
was all unravel. It really started
and
unraveling here.
we had to sit in Miami until 11 o'clock. Like,
And
so
we weren't even sure if that's where we were in Miami is to let the dead person off the ship. Like everybody was
I don't
speculating.
understand
There was
why they
all of this
ported.
stuff going on. Like, did we have to get rid of the body in Miami? Like, what is going on? And so everybody's tense, on edge, like hangry, like
So this was the night
lack of vitamin D from no sun from the day we got on board to now.
yeah, so I have in my notes that we did go to dinner. We must have went and got dressed and went to dinner. And this was the night we had, okay, I had the barramundi because I'm a I love seafood, so
Okay.
I'll try pretty much
So this
anything.
is how bad it was for
This
me.
was funny.
Okay.
Yep. This
Because
is probably
I
my
don't
most
eat red meat. I
favorite
don't
part
eat
of this. I got
I
the
don't eat red
barramundi, which
meat.
I didn't eat. And then Denise, what did you get?
I ordered the steak because it had asparagus and mashed potatoes. So I'm like, even if I don't eat the steak, I could still eat the vegetables around
But
it. And maybe if it's actually every once in a blue moon, I'll eat a steak if it's a a very nice steak because iron's good. But this was not a very
so
nice steak,
you ordered
Cheryl.
a New York strip steak. This is what it was on the menu. How did your New York strip steak come?
It was flat and gristly, overcooked, and had tons of fucking gravy all over it, like a
Steak,
brown thin
when
gravy.
they laid that plate down,
I
I was
almost
like,
barfed.
who puts gravy on a steak? I actually went back and looked at the menu because at this point, I don't remember if it was this day or the day before, I started screenshotting the menus. It was listed as a peppercorn sauce. This looked like brown gravy. It looked like you on
And
a
I
steak.
think they were trying to smother it because the steak quality was so poor. Um,
Neither one of us finished our meal that night.
I didn't eat the steak at all. I
And I
barely
didn't eat
touched the vegetables, and I just ordered another glass of wine, if I'm being quite honest.
yeah. So that was a very interesting meal. And that is the night though we did go to the comedy club, I believe.
Well, we actually, you know what? The great thing about Cheryl and I is we can have fun anywhere. You know what I'm saying?
True.
Like we
Well,
can
you have to
have
laugh
fun
about it and have
anywhere.
fun.
Yeah, if you don't laugh, you're gonna cry. So at this point, we're just like,
And the drinks
this is
didn't hurt.
kind of that's right. So that's part of the what I would be crying about. If I wasn't laughing because I had some red wine in me, I probably would be crying at that point because it was going downhill pretty rapidly. And but we got dressed, we got back to our room, we kicked on our music, we were getting ready, and we knew that we were going to go up to see our friends up on deck 18 in the Sky Lounge.
Which we've been
So
calling it Sky Lounge or VIP. It was actually the cigar room and the like jazz. That's where the jazz
Adults
musician
only.
was. And it
Yes,
was
Anthony
adults
was
only.
there. Yes, Anthony and John played there every night. Jazz set, piano, awesome entertainment. The people up there were great. We that was like kind of like our silver lining of the whole cruise, honestly, was going up and hanging out. We knew we had friends up there and we would all get together up there and we would like have fun and drink and chat. So
Yeah.
we were just like, all right, the whole day pretty much fucking sucked, but let's head up to deck 18 and have a party,
And
you
that's
know?
where we spent the rest of the evening. And that kind of rounded out our day 5.
Now, did we do, wait, I wrote comedy club, Cheryl. Did we
I
do the
did
comedy
mention the
club?
comedy club.
Okay, so for me, the comedy club was a little lackluster because it was very much oriented to like a much like very older crowd. Like, and he talked a lot about marriage and divorce. He seemed like a nice guy. The actual set for me, because I love comedy clubs. Um, it wasn't an awesome set for me particularly, but that's probably why you just skimmed on over it, right? Did you think it was good? Did you laugh a
Well,
lot?
he had, I mean, I got his jokes, and you're right. I think it was for an older crowd. He did good crowd work. I think that was part, which I think all comedians, when they're doing clubs, their crowd work is some of their best work. I just don't love comedy clubs. I don't like, if you're not right in front of the comedian, I feel like I'm watching something. I'm not part of it. So I just, it's not my cup of tea. I'd rather watch it on TikTok. That's really,
So
I'd rather scroll
you were
through.
more of the silent disco type of girl.
Oh my, yes. Give me out to a
That was
dance.
your jam.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'd much rather be out dancing or doing trivia or something like that than, but he was not terrible. It was
He
just
was not the worst comedian I've
right.
ever heard, but
And
I
we
mean,
were
he
with
definitely wasn't the best
our
either.
good friends, our who
Eleanor
well,
and Patty.
yeah, who we made good
And
friends with.
so,
So,
yes. And Eleanor, as we spoke about her before, is a fellow travel agent. So we were kind of picking each other's brains as agents, like, would you refer a client on this cruise? And so that was nice to have another travel agent to chat with and just get a little bit of feedback. Um, so so that was kind of the wrap of those days, and that's about all the time we have for today's episode. But as you can see, somebody's died. People are getting crazy at the buffet, stealing all the tea and shit, and even going under the cupboards underneath and just randomly packing
and
their bags
just
with,
getting angry in general.
yeah.
And our next
So
2 days, we're at sea. So, can you imagine everybody just there's nowhere to
just
go.
like,
We're
uh,
stuck at sea.
just raise your hands or on a vote. Do you think it gets better or worse? Better or worse?
Yep.
Eee.
So, you got to tune back in next week for the rest of our adventures, cuz let's just say it was adventurous. Thanks, guys.
All right, guys, Suitcase Divas out.